Hey everybody, hope you all had a good time whilst I was sweating my head off at Download for 5 days straight and chilling out tenors for pints of Carlsberg and eating food that cost an arm and a leg. Honestly, my bank account has been rinsed these past few days. It's actually disgraceful. I can literally hear it crying. So yeah, I did have a good time. It was really enjoyable. I've always wanted to go my whole life. I love rock and metal, and it was great to finally go to the biggest one in the country and see all my favourite bands like Deftones and Electric Wizard, and even Kiss. And Kiss was actually hilarious. It's actually quite emotional hearing them be like, "We'll never forget you, Download." Oh yeah, it was very heartwarming. So today, this is a follow-on from my last video where I was talking about. The last video was my first time trying psychedelics in terms of my personal story content, and I spoke at the end of that about how there was literally a nightmarish house party that I hosted in, I think it was late 2016. I think it was around like New Year's or something. And yeah, this involved me, my mate C, and my mate K, all taking acid. Probably one of the first time we'd taken acid in like a serious party setting. And lo and behold, it all went to shit. In fact, it couldn't have gone worse, really. So I had this party and foolishly thought, oh yeah, I'll just literally invite everyone. I literally invited everybody I knew at this point in my life. And my parents were literally only away for one night, and somehow I thought I'd be able to manage any of the mess that might be made and any of the repercussions of the house party, but nah, it was too much to handle. And basically, when I was at that age in 2016, I mean, that was ages ago now, and it was like coming up to 6 years. It'll be the 6th year anniversary of it very soon. But yeah, back in that period of my life, I was really foolishly abusing substances, and especially psychedelics. I really had that ego of like, oh, well, I've done it about 10 times now, nothing can possibly go wrong. And you know what, that's again, the ego is taking over, and if that's happening and you're taking psychedelics, you're going to have a bad time. But in a way, you can have a bad time so that you eventually can grow from that. And yeah, all of my chaotic, horrible experiences from acid were all about me, like suppressing my shadow and it coming out during my trips, and then suppressing it whilst I was having an ego death, which just always ends in some chaotic shit going on. So during that time, I definitely had a lot of ego issues surrounding partying and interacting with people, being like a social butterfly on drugs, saying like, oh, look at me, I can take all these drugs and chat shit to people. Because for a long time when I was in school, up until I went to sixth form, which was like year 12, it wasn't until I started taking, say, like MDMA and going to like raves. I was an absolute introvert. Didn't speak to anybody, really just played games and spoke to people on Skype and etc. I didn't really have any mates at school, all that. But yeah, as soon as I started getting on it and that, I started opening myself up more, which in a way, yeah, it was a good thing because I definitely needed to come out of my shell and experience deeper aspects of life and become more social. But again, the ego took hold and completely warped my whole like perception of life. It was like, oh yeah, you can literally take drugs and nothing bad will ever happen, especially psychedelics, because they improve my consciousnness and I feel so much more intelligent on them. But I didn't realise the deeper aspects of what they can actually do. But at this house party, yeah, there were so many people, and lo and behold, yeah, more and more people kept coming. I didn't even invite them. I couldn't even stop it. People were just showing up. People I had no idea about. It's like sort of acquaintances that I invited were just inviting their friends. People were just taking advantage of my house, really. There were so many people. I've possibly like 60 plus people, and the house wasn't too big, and it was quite an old house as well. So the walls were basically like paper thin, so they were basically gagging to get destroyed. So yeah, me, C, and K were all on acid, and I was actually alright this night. I wasn't too bad. I can't believe I didn't go insane as well. Again, I think it's because my ego was so dense, it wasn't like piercing through the veil. But yeah, it was both of their first times really taking acid or anything psychedelic. and especially in that setting. And this was the most intense possible party you could be at, to be on drugs. And it was all going relatively smoothly. Obviously, I was pissed off that there was all these people in my house. But then Kay, my mate, was just like, right, Kay's going absolutely crazy. He's literally just jumped off your landing and fallen through the bench and shattered it. And I was like, oh fuck me, this is really not good. So me and my mate Elle had to run down into the garden and find him. We're like, mate, you need to come back inside. It's dangerous. You're losing your head. But he was completely goners. He was like, he was just literally speaking in tongues and chatting so much shit about how he needed to get to the center of the earth. He was just going absolutely crazy. He looked like a madman. He was literally digging into the ground with his hands, fighting bushes, twatting fences with his fists, completely like messing up his knuckles and his face and everything. And he was just going everywhere, destroying the garden. It was really weird because at first he was loving it. He was having all these revelations and insights about life. I mean, he came into the kitchen and he was doing this little jig and he was like, energy is everything. Energy is everything. And we were all just having a laugh. And I feel he told me after all of this went down that from his perspective, he was just going deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper and hyper analyzing himself and everybody, because there was like a mixture of so many different people, sort of like alternative hippie people, like DMV raver people. But then there was like sort of like chavvy people there. And people he didn't know, people he was like uncomfortable with, and like obviously when you're on acid you're hyper analyzing stuff, and this was just so much of a head blag for him that he literally like basically went insane and had his like first sort of ego dissolution experience and resisted it, and basically his mind imploded and he started doing all this stuff. We call it him going primal. Because he literally looked like a caveman who was out on a hunt for some fucking like mammoth skin. And whilst that was going on outside, I was like, oh, surely it'll be all right inside. Maybe everyone's calming down. Get inside and see the other guy who took acid. He's going even more crazy, but in a violent way. He was in like the spare room and he was fucking like, again, like attacking the walls, jumping off them. He was like a fish out of water on like 20 caffeine pills. He was fucking like flinging all these photos around. He went into my room, he got my keyboard, he was like smashing it on the desk, ripping it all up. I was like, right, we need to get this guy out of here. Got him in the kitchen and he was going even more crazy. He was getting like glasses and chucking them and they were shattering. And then sort of like the chavier people, the proper hard lads, they were just like, they didn't even know it wasn't on acid. They just thought he was going crazy. So they just literally just started beating the fuck out of him, and they literally had to like beat him out the house because we were like, right, we need to get him out of here. He's a danger to himself and everybody. Some other people had to get on the phone to his girlfriend. He was screaming for his girlfriend all night, like, the love of my life, where are you? I need you in my life right now. And we were like, oh, right, well, we need to get her here because she might calm him down. So they literally, or the chavieheads, like, had to fight him out of the house. But what ended up happening was he ended up running up and down the road, and all the neighbours were obviously hearing this commotion. And this was maybe like 11 at night or something. The party had only been going on for a few hours, and it had already gone topsy-turvy. And apparently he was walking down the street, and one of the children in their bedrooms looked out the window and saw him in the street like some form of demon, and he was literally going crazy, speaking in tongues, going and that freaked the fuck out of them. So obviously they told the parents, they rang the police and everything, but the police actually didn't come for quite a while, because what actually ended up happening was C's parents got there with his girlfriend, and we basically had to shove him into the car. But when he got into the car, he started actually beating his girlfriend whilst they were driving, which was like, holy fuck, this was getting serious now. Like, I knew the police were going to come at some point, because this was a fucking like crime scene. So they ended up having to take him home, and he got home and he was just even more crazy at home. They had to take him to hospital. And he'd sustained some serious damage from like the chavvy heads beating him up and shit. So what ended up happening was the police obviously were informed at the hospital, so they had to come to my house because the parents told him where they'd taken him. And then they turned up, and I was still on acid at this point, tripping balls, and people were like, Vivec, the police are here, and I was like, oh god, here we go. But I was sort of so done with what was going on. I literally was blocking it all out. I remember when this was all happening, I literally just had my head on the counter in the kitchen. I was just like, oh, when will this nightmare subside? So I just went to the police, and I was somehow so calm and collected because I was just in such shock of what was going on. And I just informed him about everything and said, oh yeah, he came here, he had his own drugs, he just took them, we had no idea what was going on. And he just exploded, and they were like, oh right, yeah, we were just coming to clarify. And then when I thought it was over, I went back into my room, and then someone had said, oh, the police are in the kitchen. I was like, are you fucking mad? It turned out some guy was so wired on MDMA, he was like, oh yeah, come in mate, yeah, you'll like it in here, it'll be great. As you do when you're wired and you're just so welcoming. And he'd let them in the house. I was like, that's not what you want to do with the police, because there was so much drugs in the house. Everyone was fucking like on it. So I said to like 30 people, I was like, go upstairs and be quiet as fuck. And like, apparently everyone was shitting upstairs. They were hiding all the drugs in like my family's drawers and shit. Because obviously they didn't want to get caught. And yeah, I basically they had to take the names of everyone who was downstairs, and like, oh, you need to give us the names of everyone here, because if we're going to have to do a follow-up investigation, if C can name who it was who was attacking him, because obviously he'd been assaulted. And yeah, that actually went relatively smoothly. They just took all the names. It was so funny, like all these heads were absolutely pinging on Gary's, and they were like, oh yeah, my name's William, it's William, and they didn't even know how to spell our own names because they were so goners. And unfortunately that ended up going quite smoothly, and one of my other mates, Jay, he was down in the garden calming down Kay, who was still going absolutely crazy off the acid, and he was just literally just having like, it was like he was possessed by some demon, and he was just going like, energy is everything, we need to get into the center of the earth right now. But he managed to calm him down and keep him quiet. And yeah, the police went, and there was no more investigations, because if they went into the garden and saw Kay, they were like, right, we're gonna have to do some serious fucking investigating here, because this is not just like a random incident of someone taking drugs. It's like literally a hive of substance abusing individuals. So yeah, the police went, and I was like, right, well, here we go. People need to fucking leave now. And for some reason I ended up getting this old machete from the garage, and I just took it into the kitchen. I just took it out. This was so crazy, and I was like, right, everyone who doesn't actually know me needs to leave right now, and people who do know me need to help me clean up this mess. And for some reason everyone talked me out of it, like, oh no, we're all here for you. And even like the people I didn't know, like, yeah mate, honestly, we're here for you. And then another funny thing that was happening, it's not funny, but in a way it was, this random lad in the other room was like having a mental breakdown. I've seen all this shit before me, I can't take it anymore, people are losing their heads on drugs, I can't hack it. And it's like, oh mate, why are you making it so much worse? And yeah, the girl who I was speaking to at the time ended up being the most fucked up relationship ever. She ended up becoming a heroin addict, cheated on me so many times, abused me and shit. That sort of like turned her on in a sense, and that was like the beginning of our horrible relationship, that party, because at the end of it I like tried to clean the whole house, and there was so much beer, so much shit to clean up, broken stuff everywhere. And when people were leaving, they're like, oh yeah, thanks so much for having us around, I really hope you saw it out. And this was one to tell the grandkids about. I mean, every single person who sees me from that party just brings it up all the time, because it was literally the most crazy shit in the world. And I was just so embarrassed and so unbelievably like disgusted with myself for doing this to my parents, and having to put this all on them, because I knew it would end up coming back to bite me in the ass. I was just like, I literally cannot stay here, I need to go. So that girl who ended up getting in a relationship with, I ended up staying at her house, and unfortunately that was the beginning of even more maddening, traumatic shit that happened to me. And my parents rang me up the next day like, what the fuck is actually going on here? What have you done to us? What have you done to our house? What have you done to these people? And then obviously C had to turn up with his parents and explain what had happened. And then the neighbours, obviously, as soon as my mum and dad got back from holiday, they were like, right, we need to have a serious talk right now. And they told them everything that had gone down. I was so honestly shocked and disappointed in myself, and it really caused me to go into a massive depressive cycle. And then it ended up becoming the beginning of the most traumatizing, disturbing relationship I've ever had. Frankly, I've only ever had one disturbing relationship, and it was that. And yeah, so that was really the beginning of the end of my life, in a sense. And 2017 ended up being the very worst year ever after that party. Because I was with this horrible girl. And then I had so many, and then I had my disturbing ego deaths in 2017, which you can refer to in my personal stories, the one in Manchester and the Brink of Insanity one. But again, in hindsight now, making this video and thinking back on it, it really was the most transformative year of my life, because at the end of the day, one of the deepest revelations you can have into reality is that suffering is one of the greatest teachers, other than probably love, because yeah, reality is love. This is all. That's what reality and the universe is here for, to love itself infinitely. But to do that, it actually has to suffer, because that's the only thing that can move the ego a lot of times. And the deep suffering I went through in 2017 really sort of made me the man I am today. Which is really good, because my life it's full of wonder. I had the most wonderful relationship. But I wouldn't have been able to achieve that if I hadn't gone through the pain of suffering through my massive ego and just abusing it. But I got lucky, and I did get lucky, because there were so many moments where I was like, I literally could have died in 2017. There was like 5 moments where I thought I could have died. I was in a car crash with that tapped girlfriend. She was on heroin. She drove me back. It was the day before my driving test, and she literally crashed on the motorway. I literally, in that split second, I was like, wow, this is going to be the end of my life. Somehow made it. Somehow made it out of that alive. Then obviously in Manchester, I was literally running around naked, almost got hit by a bus, almost got literally abducted by these gangs in the Curry Mile. I literally should have died. It's ridiculous. And I got lucky, and don't follow in my footsteps at all, because I am not a good example in that aspect. But I just wanted to give a piece of advice in that if you've gone through some traumatic stuff like that, you've had these near-death experiences, and you've been abusing drugs, really just try and open your mind up to the bigger perspective that, yeah, I need to stop doing this, and that the pain I've gone through, if I contemplate it deeply and meditate on it, I can use it as a transformative experience, and I can transmute this negative energy into positive energy and really sort out my life, which is eventually what I ended up doing. So yeah, that was the house party from hell. I hope that was entertaining to listen to. I'll have to do another one soon. I might talk about more of the really fucked up stuff that happened in that relationship with that girl, because honestly I saw some things that people should not have to see. It was so bad. But again, in a way, it was fully necessary for me to make it here today. Thank you guys as well for 20k subscribers. I didn't even have a chance to thank you all for that, because I've been at download. Honestly, it means the world to me. I can't believe it's so surreal that stuff is actually starting to sort of pop off with this channel. I know I'm still in the micro units for subscribers, but you know what? It doesn't matter to me. 20k, that is absolutely unbelievable to me. I can't even believe 1,000 people watch a video in a day. That is actually insane. It brings me so much joy interacting with all you guys. You're the most interesting, insightful, entertaining, cultured people I've ever spoke to. You're all from different parts of the world. Interacting on Instagram, it's an absolute pleasure. You're all so amazing, really, and I want you to all be proud of the things you've achieved in your life. And I'll keep making weird little videos for you for the rest of time, hopefully. So yeah, hope you have a good day, and let me know if you want to see more of this stuff in the future. Even though you say yes every time, I still gotta say it, it's YouTube. And don't forget to like and subscribe.